In this video, I'll be showing you how to install Arch Linux on VirtualBox, create a regular user account, and install a desktop environment. This tutorial is also compatible with setting up Arch Linux on a real machine. Arch Linux is a GNU/Linux distribution which aims for simplicity and full control to the end user. Please take note that this distribution may not be suitable for beginners. VirtualBox is a free and open source virtualization software by Oracle Corporation. It allows users to run nearly any operating system on a single machine and to freely switch between operating system instances running simultaneously. This tutorial assumes that you already have VirtualBox installed on your computer and have downloaded the Arch Linux installer ISO, which you can get from archlinux.org. So let's go ahead and open up VirtualBox and click on New. On the name, type Arch Linux, and it will automatically select the type and version of the operating system for you. Click on Next. Here you can choose how much RAM you wish to give our virtual machine. I'm just going to leave it to the default 1 GB and click on Next. Now we are asked if we would like to create a virtual hard disk. Choose Create a Virtual Hard Disk Now and click on Create. For the hard disk file type, we will go with VHD and click on Next. Select Dynamically Allocated so it only uses space on your physical hard disk as needed and click on Next. Finally, we choose the size we like for our virtual hard disk to have. I'm going to give mine 80 GB of space and click on Create. We are now done creating our virtual machine, and the next step is to insert the Arch ISO into our virtual CD-ROM. To do that, click the title that says Storage, and under Controller IDE, select the icon that looks like a CD and says Empty. On the leftmost corner of the window, there is another icon that looks like a CD. Click on that and select Choose Virtual Optical Disk File. This option allows us to choose the image that we would like to load. In this case, it's the Arch ISO installer. Now, navigate to where you downloaded the Arch ISO, open it, and click on OK. Now we're ready to start our virtual machine. Click on Start to begin our installation. On the opening screen, choose Boot Arch Linux x86-64 and press Enter. This will boot to our live CD and automatically log in as root user. You will be taken to a Z Shell terminal at the end of the boot process. Let's just wait for it to finish booting. On the terminal, type ls then enter, and we can see an install guide that is included in the live CD in a text file called install.txt. We're going to use the less command to view the contents of our install guide. So less install.text allows us to scroll up and down using the arrow keys. To carry out with the installation without closing our install guide, we can switch between terminals. On VirtualBox, this is done by pressing the host key, which is the right control key, plus the function key that is bound to the terminal end. We are currently on TTY1 terminal, which is bound to F1 function key on your keyboard. So to switch to TTY2 terminal, we press the right control key plus F2. Just type root to log into TTY2. To go back to TTY1 terminal, just press the right control key again plus F1. On a real machine, the key combination is control plus alt key, then the function key. The installation guide is divided into three parts. The first part is the pre-installation, the second part is the installation, and the last part is configuring the system. So for the first part, the first step is to check for internet connection. Ping python c2 archlinux.org. Of course, it has already been automatically configured when we created our virtual machine, but on a real machine, depending on your setup, you just have to read through the installation guide on how to get your internet connection working, and possibly open another computer and read through the manuals from archlinux.org specific to your internet connection. Please be aware that I may skip some steps in the installation process, as the goal of this tutorial is to keep it as simple as possible. Again, on a real machine, you may have to deal with setting the keyboard layout and verifying the boot mode of your machine. Now let's move on to updating the system clock. This is done with the time, date, cdl, set, ntp true command. To check the status, we type date control status. Next is to format our hard disk to have separate partitions for boot, swap, root, and home directories. fdisk -l lists the devices available on our system. I know that /dev/sda is my hard disk because of its size. Type fdisk/dev/sd and then the letter of your device to begin the format. To add a new partition, type n. Select P for primary partition, 1 for partition number. Just press enter for the first sector and type plus 100M for the last sector. This will be our boot partition. Type N again to create our swap partition. Select P for primary partition, 2 for partition number. Just press enter for the first sector and type plus 4G for the last sector, then press enter. Type N again to create our root partition. Select P for primary, 3 for partition number, and again just press enter for the first sector and type plus 20G for the last sector, then press enter. Type N again to create our home partition. Select P for primary partition, Again, just press enter for the first sector and enter again for the last sector. Type P to print the partition table. You should see the same output as shown in the video. Now we're done partitioning our hard disk. Type W to save the changes and exit Fdisk. Now we need to format the partitions to Linux file system. We're going to format all partitions to extension for file system except for swap. To format the boot partition, type mkfs ext4/dev/sda1, then enter. Do this for the boot and home partitions, replacing one in /dev/sda1 with their corresponding partition number. So it's mkfs.ext4/dev/sda3 and mkfs.ext4/dev/sda4. For the swap, it is created with the mkswap command. So type mkswap/dev/sda2 and press enter. To activate our swap, type swap on/dev/sda2. After partitioning our hard disk, we can now mount our root to /mnt. The command is mount/dev/sda3/mnt, where /dev/sda3 is our root file system. The next step is to create the /mnt/boot and /mnt home directories and mount our file systems accordingly. Type mkdir -p /mnt/boot & mkdir -p /mnt/home and press enter. To create the boot and home directories, then mount /dev/sda1 /mnt/root & mount /dev/sda4 /mnt/home, where /dev/sda1 and /dev/sda4 are the root and home file systems respectively. Press enter. Oops, typo there. It should be /mnt boot and not root. Okay. Now we move on to the second part of the install guide, which is the installation of the system files. The first step is selecting the mirrors. Mirrors are computer servers that are copies of our primary Arch Linux server. These mirrors are defined in the etc or etc/pacman.d mirror list file. We're going to edit this file using the nano editor. So nano/etc/pacman.d/mirror list, and we're going to move the mirror another typo. Okay, and we're going to move the mirror that is geographically closest to us to the top of the list, because the higher a mirror is placed in the list, the higher priority is given. So let's try Iceland. Control K cuts the current line into buffer, while Control U pastes the line from the buffer. When you're finished editing, press Ctrl O to save the file, and then Ctrl X to exit Nano. We can now install the base packages with backstrap /mnt base. This may take a while, so I'm going to pause the video and continue after the installation. The base packages have now been installed. We can now move on to the last part of the install guide, which is configuring the system. The first step is to generate an fstab file with gen fstab python u /mnt sign /mnt/etc/fstab. Check the resulting file afterwards with cat /mnt/etc/fstab and edit it in case of errors. Next is to change root with arch chroot /mnt command. To set the time zone, type ln python sf/usr/share/zone info/region/etc/local time, where region/city are your zone information. To adjust the time, type hwclock python sys2hc. This will generate a /etc adj time file. To generate your locale, edit the /etc local.gen. So nano/etc/local.gen, and uncomment the line that says nus.utf-8 and other needed localization by removing the hash sign at the beginning of the line. Now save the file and exit Nano and type local gen. Next is to set the lang variable by creating a /etc/local.conf file with nano. So nano/etc/local.conf, and add the line lang equals n_us.utf-8. Again, save the file and exit Nano. Now we need to create the host name. The host name is the name that you would like to give to your computer. To do that, create a file /etc/hostname with nano and add the name that you desire. Next is to edit the /etc hosts file and add the line 127.0.1.1 and then your hostname dot local domain and then your host name. Again, save the file and exit nano. It is now time to set the root password. Type passwd and type your chosen root password twice. This will be the password that you're going to use when you log in as root. We are almost done, and the second to the last step is to install the bootloader. Type pacman -s grub and wait for it to finish. When it is finished installing, type grub install target equals i386 pc recheck, and then the device name for our hard disk /dev/sda, where A is the letter for your hard disk, and press enter. This will install grub bootloader to our hard disk. To create a grub config file, first move the old config file to another file because the mkconfig command cannot overwrite the old config file. So type mv/boot/grub.cfg to /boot/grub/grub.cfg.sav. Now type grub make mkconfig -o /boot/grub/grub.cfg to make a new grub config file. Exit the root environment by typing exit or Ctrl D. From here we can type reboot and boot to our newly installed Arch Linux virtual machine. Optionally, for security reasons, you can unmount /mnt manually, but this is done automatically when you type reboot. To unmount it manually, type umount -r/mnt. Reboot the system with the reboot command and log in as root user and type in your password. If everything goes well, then you will be logged in as root. Congratulations, you have successfully installed Arch Linux on VirtualBox. It's not wise to use our system always as the root user, so we want to create a regular user account with permission to perform root functions under sudo. This leads us to the second part of the installation, which is creating a regular user account and installing a desktop environment. So assuming that you have already configured your internet connection, let us install sudo with pacman -s sudo. To create a new user, type user add -m -g wheel python s /bin/bash and your username. To give our new user permission to use sudo, we edit the configuration file with editor equals nano vsudo and locate the section marked as user privilege specification and uncomment the line that says modulo wheel all equals all and save the file, then exit nano. Now set the password for our user with passwd and then your username. And then log out and relog in as the regular user. Notice the change of the prompt from hash to $sign. This helps you to know if you are logged in as root or not. Okay, so last but not the least is to install a desktop environment. The first thing to do is to install Xorg for graphical display. This is done with sudo pacman python s xorg python xinit xorg python server xorg python server python utils xterm. Type your password. This may take a while, so I'm going to pause the video and continue after the installation. When it's done, install lxde with sudo pacman python s lxde. Type your password and press enter. Before you launch lxde, define a configuration file xinitrc with nano tilde / dot xinitrc and add the line exec start lxde and then save it and exit nano. To launch lxde, just type start x. And that is it for this tutorial. This has been a long one and I hope you enjoyed it. If you find this video helpful, please do not forget to leave a like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.